Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Authorities in Bonham County, South Dakota say that a 46-year-old elementary school teacher was arrested earlier this month after he allegedly baked a pan of marijuana brownies that his elderly mother unwittingly shared with a number of senior citizens. According to reports, police were alerted to the situation around 8 p.m. on January 4th when they began to receive 911 calls about possible poisoning cases involving several senior citizens. When police began to interview the victims, they suspected that they were under the influence of marijuana. They also learned that all of the seniors had ingested brownies earlier that evening while attending a card game at a local community center in the town of Tabor. The next morning, officers interviewed the woman who had brought the brownies, who told them that they had been baked by her son, 46-year-old Michael Karanda, a teacher at Tabor Elementary School. During an interview at the school, Karanda admitted that he had recently traveled to Colorado, where he had purchased a pound of marijuana-infused butter. Upon returning home, he had used half of the butter to bake the brownies, which he had left out. Though Karanda claimed that he had no idea that his mother had taken the brownies to her card game, he was arrested and charged with possession of a controlled substance. Reports allege that if convicted, he could face up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. The rest of his marijuana butter was also seized by police.
If you're a regular viewer of our Crimes of the Week series, you might remember that a couple of weeks back, we covered the suspicious disappearance of a 30-year-old mother and art fair vendor named Missy Hernandez. Missy was well known in Fresno, California's pop-up art fair scene, and was usually witnessed running a booth at various local events, but had not been seen since December 7th. Sadly, it appears that investigators now fear the worst for the 30-year-old, as this week it was reported that charges have now been laid against the suspect in connection with her alleged murder. The suspect in question is Missy's 41-year-old boyfriend, Ramon Jimenez. According to reports, Jimenez was with Missy when she left a Fresno art fair on the day she was last seen alive. Not only that, family and friends say that Jimenez was known to be abusive towards her. In fact, Jimenez was arrested the day after Missy disappeared, when police went to her residence looking for her. During that search, police realized that Jimenez was wanted on prior domestic assault charges against Missy and took him into custody. Further investigation of Missy's residence allegedly revealed signs that a violent incident might have occurred there, and detectives now say that there was an overwhelming amount of forensic and digital evidence allegedly pointing to Jimenez as a suspect. Though Jimenez was charged with murder on January 11th and remains in police custody, authorities say that they are still searching for Missy's body at this time.
Authorities in Phoenix, Arizona say that a 16-year-old fast food employee is lucky to be alive this week after he was shot during a dispute between another employee and a customer over barbecue sauce. According to reports, the incident took place around 8 p.m. on January 13th at a Wendy's location near 19th Street and Glendale Avenues. It allegedly began when a customer became enraged because the restaurant was out of barbecue sauce, prompting him to walk up to the drive-thru window and get into a heated argument with one of the restaurant's employees. At some point during the exchange, the customer pulled out a handgun and fired through the open window, hitting 16-year-old Brian Durham Jr. in the head. Witnesses say that Brian was not involved in the argument and was merely standing near the window at the time waiting to give the suspect his change. According to his family, he has only been working at Wendy's for about 4 months. When police and emergency service workers arrived at the scene, Brian was immediately rushed to the hospital. Though he was in critical condition, thankfully it appears that the bullet that hit him only grazed his head, and he is expected to make a recovery. The suspect allegedly behind the shooting fled the scene before police could arrive but was arrested 3 days later. He has since been identified as 27-year-old Theodis Polk. At the time of this recording, it's unclear what charges Polk will be facing.
Authorities in the Texas city of Colleyville say that 4 people are safe and a suspect is dead after a tense hostage situation unfolded this weekend at a local synagogue. According to reports, the situation began shortly before 11 a.m. on January 15th, as the Beth Israel Congregation Synagogue live-streamed its Sabbath morning service on Facebook and Zoom. That's when authorities say that an armed man, later identified as 44-year-old British national Malik Faisal Akram, entered the synagogue and took 4 people, including Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker, hostage. Authorities were allegedly alerted to the situation when Walker contacted another rabbi in New York, who immediately called the police. After that, the local SWAT team arrived at the scene, followed by an FBI hostage rescue team. For approximately 10 hours, authorities remained in a tense standoff with Akram. During talks with negotiators, he allegedly demanded the release of Afia Siddiqui, a Pakistani scientist suspected of having ties to Al-Qaeda. Siddiqui was sentenced to 86 years in prison in 2010 after she was convicted on charges of shooting at U.S. Army officers after being detained in Afghanistan 2 years prior. Since her conviction, Siddiqui has been held at a federal prison in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. According to reports, before the synagogue's livestream was taken down, Akram could be heard ranting about religion, also saying that he had bombs and that Siddiqui was his sister. Both of these claims later turned out to be false. While Akram allegedly said that he didn't want to see any of the hostages get hurt, witnesses say that he became increasingly belligerent and threatening as time went on. At 5 p.m., one of the hostages, identified only as a man, was released. The next 3 hostages reportedly managed to escape unharmed when SWAT and the FBI hostage rescue team entered the building around 9 p.m. Witnesses recalled hearing a loud bang and gunfire at the time they went inside. Sometime during that encounter, Akram was killed, though at the time of this recording, it's unclear if he was shot by authorities or whether he took his own life. Back in the UK, where Akram was from, officials say that they are currently questioning 2 teenagers who were arrested in connection to the incident. The situation appears to be still developing, and more information is expected to come. Authorities in Montgomery County, Tennessee say that a 39-year-old mother has been arrested and is facing charges this week after she allegedly faked the death of her 12-year-old autistic son near the end of last year. According to reports, the case began on October 29th, when a school resource officer at New Providence Middle School in the city of Clarksville called 39-year-old Vanessa Blanchard to ask why her son had recently been absent from school. The resource officer said that Blanchard told her that the 12-year-old had died from a seizure 2 days prior. News of the boy's death apparently spread quickly and came as a major blow to many at the school, especially the boy's best friend, another special needs student at the middle school. Out of a desire to help Blanchard, teachers and school administrators began to raise money to assist with any funeral expenses. However, when officials at the school contacted the funeral home allegedly making the arrangements, they got their first major sign that something was wrong. No one there had ever heard of the 12-year-old. When Blanchard was contacted again about her son, she said that he was undergoing an autopsy at a local hospital. The truth was finally uncovered a couple of weeks later on November 16th, shortly after investigators discovered that the 12-year-old's school-issued laptop was still active. Upon conducting further interviews with witnesses, the boy was traced to a room at the Vacation Motor Hotel, where he was found to be very much alive. When police contacted Blanchard, she finally admitted that she had left her son there alone for at least 2 weeks, claiming that she was checking on him, quote, whenever she could. It's believed that she may have been going to the hotel as little as every other day. Blanchard was arrested on January 11th and has now been charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor and false impression of death. At the time of this recording, the motive behind the terrible hoax remains a mystery.
Perfect.
Authorities in the city of Mankato, Minnesota, say that a 37-year-old man who was recently arrested on a drug charge offered a rather unique excuse for why he was in possession of an illegal substance, when he claimed that the pants he was wearing didn't belong to him. According to reports, The incident began just before 11:30 a.m. on January 5th, when an officer with the Mankato Department of Public Safety initiated a traffic stop at the intersection of Broad and Ruth Streets. When the vehicle stopped, the officer went up to the driver's side window, where he immediately noticed that the vehicle smelled like marijuana, and the man behind the wheel, 37-year-old Brandon Siak, was not wearing his seatbelt. Further investigation revealed that Siak's license had been revoked and that his passenger had an active warrant out for his arrest for probation violation. As if things weren't bad enough, when Siak was asked to step out of the vehicle for a pat-down search, the officer allegedly found a plastic baggie containing 2 grams of methamphetamine in one of the pockets of his sweatpants. Apparently coming to terms with the gravity of his situation, it was at this point that Siak reportedly decided to get creative, telling the officer that he didn't know anything about the drugs, and that actually, the sweatpants didn't even belong to him. Unfortunately for Siak, his alleged lie soon fell apart when he gave the name of a person who the sweatpants supposedly belonged to. That person turned out to be 4 feet 1 inch tall, a hilarious 22 inches shorter than Siak, even though the pants fit him perfectly fine. Siak was arrested at the scene and is now facing a felony narcotics possession charge. According to reports, Siak has a lengthy criminal history and has previously been convicted of offenses such as fraud, burglary, receiving stolen property, disorderly conduct, assault, DWI, theft, narcotics possession, check forgery, domestic assault, and driving with a revoked license.
Representatives from the NYPD say that they have arrested a 30-year-old suspect this week, just days after he allegedly murdered a teenage fast food worker during a robbery. According to reports, the chilling incident unfolded at around 1 a.m. on January 9th at a Burger King location at East 116th Street and Lexington Avenue in the New York City neighborhood of East Harlem. It allegedly began when 30-year-old Winston Glynn entered the restaurant armed with a handgun, pistol whipping a male customer and punching a female manager in the face before shouting, "Give me the cash." Witnesses say that Glynn then approached the fast food restaurant's order area, where he pointed his weapon at 19-year-old Crystal Byron Nieves as she struggled to open the cash register drawer. After she handed over the money, Glynn allegedly shot her before running away. Reports say that he made off with just $100. Police and emergency service workers soon arrived at the scene and Crystal was rushed to the hospital, where she sadly was pronounced dead a short time later. According to Crystal's family, though she had only been working at the Burger King for 3 weeks at the time of her death, she was already concerned about her safety on the night shift and had been trying to get switched to days instead. Thanks to video evidence taken at the scene and in the surrounding area, police were able to identify Glynn as their suspect, and he was arrested on January 14th. He has since been charged with first-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon. Reports state that Glynn also has 4 prior arrests on charges of menacing, criminal possession of a weapon, assault, and criminal mischief.
Authorities in Richmond County, Georgia say that 3 people are dead this week, including the suspect, after a chilling double homicide in the city of Augusta. According to reports, the incident began around 5:40 p.m. on Friday, January 14th, when officers at the Richmond County Sheriff's Office were called to a residence on the 2500 block of Hammond Avenue. Upon arriving at the scene, they found the bodies of 27-year-old Raven Michelle Tolbert and 27-year-old Mercedes Nora Shanice Gibson. Both had been shot at least once. A third unidentified victim was found shot at the scene, but was rushed to Augusta University Medical Center and is expected to survive. Officials say that there were also a number of children inside the residence where the shooting occurred, but that they were physically unharmed. During a subsequent investigation, police identified a suspect behind the fatal attack, 26-year-old Therese Latrell Booker. Booker was quickly traced to a room at the Gordon Inn and Suites on Molly Pond Road. However, when police arrived at the room where he was staying around 3 a.m. on Saturday morning, they heard a gunshot before they could enter. Inside, they found Booker dead from a self-inflicted wound. While little has currently been released about the motive behind the terrible crime, it's said that the incident was domestic related. According to local media, Booker had previously served 10 years for armed robbery and got out of prison last March. Just 3 months later, he was arrested again in an incident involving reckless driving, where he was found to be carrying a gun as well as drugs, though he was released several weeks later. His most recent arrest reportedly occurred in August, where he once again was held for several weeks before being released. That's it for this edition of Crimes of the Week. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.